Okay, so part 3 is where the Berean church comes into play, and that's where I go to church now. And I mean, I have been going to the college service pretty consistently since I was a freshman, almost 4 years ago. But then at this point, my parents were like, you maybe need to see someone. I was like, whatever. So I got in touch with a counselor, and he worked at the Berean church. And I also got hooked up with my mentor, and she was awesome and very supportive, and she also has struggled with depression, so she got it. And she's literally like me, but 40 years older. Anyway, not 40 years, that's way too old. She's not that old. But I showed up at counseling wearing shorts, a sweatshirt that was big enough to be a dress, and probably looking like I hadn't showered in a week, because I probably hadn't, because I really didn't care about personal hygiene. I wasn't wearing makeup at this point in my life. Brushing my hair was a lot of work, so it pretty much just was like this on top of my head all the time. So I showed up at Gary's, his name. I showed up at his office, and I kid you not, I came in, sat on this chair like this, and I just started crying. And we had to talk about things like, are you feeling, suicide ideation is the term. So if you're a depressed person and you are in counseling, you're like, yes, the suicide ideation. I was asked that too. And I had to be like, yes, I kind of do want to kill myself. And that was the point where Gary was like, maybe we need to consider medication. And I don't really like medication, so we don't do that in my family. So I was really reluctant, especially because taking medication said I couldn't fix it myself, that I couldn't just pull myself up on my own. So I was pretty reluctant, but at that point, sitting in the office of a strange man wearing, looking like hell, I was like, okay, I'll try it. And the compassion that man showed on me, treated me like a daughter, and counseling, it's pretty alright. So counseling happened. I did go to the doctor and get diagnosed with depression. If you look up symptoms, I'm like all of them. And so then I started to take pills, which I absolutely hated, because it was a very physical reminder every day that I couldn't fix myself. And the way that Gary described why I needed to take the pills was because I was feeling emotions in tidal waves, instead of, he described it as an ocean with the waves gently lapping. That's how you should feel emotions, in and out and kind of balanced. But anytime I felt emotion, it was just like a tsunami. So it could have been someone cut me off at a stop sign, or something really small, and I would just lose it. It would just seem like this huge thing. So the pills, that started in October. And I started going to Real Time in the fall, which is Berean's college youth group, if you want. And I showed up wearing the same outfit that I wore to my first day of counseling, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't know anybody. And it was hard to get myself to that, as depressed as I was. But I went, and lo and behold, the group that they put me in, the leader, she also has depression. And I think I actually shared about it. I must have been just well, what do I have to lose? Might as well talk about this if I can't fix it on my own, because that's a very me thing to do. And she talked to me afterwards, and that friendship is the only reason I ever came back to Berean's Real Time. Was she showed me compassion, and empathy, and just she actually cared about me and got it. So that all started. Okay, October 4th. The hardest thing in the world is taking this pill every day, because every day it's going to be a reminder, a very physical reminder, that I can't fix myself, that I don't even have control over my own body, which is something I've struggled with since high school. And I fought with an eating disorder for a while, so that kind of, this made this even more complicated. What if I can never be okay without being on a pill? What if these pills don't even work? And even if they do, am I going to be followed everywhere by side effects? I've taken one so far, and I got to experience my heartbeat freaking out, which was terrifying and awful, and the joy of intense night sweats For the record, I know my room's physical temperature was freezing, but I woke up at 4:30 a.m. drenched. Yep, I remember that. It was so weird, and that was one pill, so what happens while I take more? I've got at least 3 weeks before they do anything, so do I just get to enjoy side effects while I wait? So frustrating. Yeah, I remember that and being like, this is awful. Even if I'm taking pills, like, and that helps a little bit, like, the rest of my life still sucks. Side effects blow. And it's like drug roulette. I don't believe that has changed at all. Okay, and then the last one that I have bookmarked in here is Leaf Retreat happened in mid-October, and that was just a retreat to Colorado. And we were going rock climbing, or we had the option to go rock climbing, and I really wanted to go, and I wrote this before we went, and it said, Lord, I am terrified to go rock climbing. I'm terrified out of my mind, crippled by fear that I can't do it, that I won't have the strength, the talent, the courage, the grace, the mindset, and the perseverance to do this. It's so physically demanding, I'm scared to death. I'm scared to death that everyone else will do better than me, and also that I'll have a panic attack and just lose it. And then under that I have, be the strength I rely on to hold me together. Let me find strength in your joy. And so I went 2 days, and the first day, one of the girls that I went with, I remember sharing on the bus. I don't know how this came up, but it came up that we both have panic attacks. Oh yeah, I forgot. Those were all happening too, along with the depression. Oh yeah, on the note, like I had to drop out of a class because I had a panic attack in the capstone course for my major, which was Psych 350. And 2 weeks in the lab, we were just flipping quarters and marking if they were heads or tails. And I got so overwhelmed by flipping quarters that I was like, I couldn't breathe and I thought I was going to pass out. So I just got up, I walked out in the middle of lab. I didn't say anything, I just left. And I don't know if you've ever had a panic attack, but you literally feel like you're dying and cannot breathe. But I went up to my advisors and I'm pretty sure I started crying, and I was just like, I have to drop this class, like I can't do it. And I have never dropped a class because I physically couldn't do it until then. So like on top of already feeling like I was falling apart, I was feeling like a total academic failure and like, well, I can't even flip a quarter, I'm screwed. So that sucked too. But back to the mountain. Anyway, so this girl also had panic attacks, so we were kind of bonding over that, and then we didn't get very far up the mountain, and lo and behold, she had a migraine and I think an anxiety attack or whatever. And so because I knew what that was like, I was able to really like care for her in a way that was helpful. So I didn't end up climbing that day, but I ended up getting to share with her like what was going on. And I think that was kind of when I started realizing, like, even if I can't fix what's going on in my life, I remember thinking, you know, I don't think Satan bothers people who don't bother him. So I must be bothering him, or God must have something really big that he's accomplishing with me for Satan to try this hard to keep me from doing it by trying to ruin my life. And I remember thinking at that point that I was never going to hide that I have fought with depression or that I fight with it, because then there's no point. And if I'm going to have to fight with this for either for just this period or for the rest of my life, then I'm going to use that to the glory of God. So bring it, Satan. So second day, we go back up the mountain, and I do make it to the top, and then one of my friends, she falls off the top of the mountain while she was rappelling down, and then kind of fell. Anyway, I got to I just mom people, and I kind of ended up momming her, if you will, and like getting to share with her and building a relationship through that by sharing my story all through that. And then that was kind of where I started to see a shift, and like things kind of started to get better. I battled with this, like the crying and just all of these symptoms that I just told you about all the way through 2012. Like, it was that stuff that I was reading you, that was just like a taste. That was constant for almost a year. That went all the way into spring semester of this year, so 2013. And I was dating somebody, I started dating someone in the fall of 2012. So I think it was after that retreat. And that was really helpful because I needed somebody who actually would take care of me because I physically couldn't take care of myself. And he helped a lot. But I remember even into the spring semester when I tried to retake 350, like I was still having the worst anxiety about it. And I remember there was one night that like I had a draft. It wasn't even like the real paper, but I had a draft due, and I was so anxious and panicky about it that I physically made myself sick. I couldn't sleep all night. I was up just like sick and almost dropped the class again. But like this isn't something that's just subsided. It continued. I passed all my classes. Surprisingly, I did pretty well. Grace of God, because I don't know how that even happened. But like I was taking pills and whatnot. It just kept going. So that takes us into spring, and then the end of spring and through summer, I stopped taking pills probably. I wasn't taking anything by March, so like spring break of 2013. And then I haven't taken anything since then. And I haven't had to deal with the same overwhelming wanting to kill myself feelings. And then not too long ago, just a couple months ago, in October again, I went on that same retreat a year later. And for the first time, I was able to look back and be like, change has happened. I have been restored to somewhat of that happy, joyful person where I'm not fighting that cloud every day. In case you couldn't tell from my videos, I'm a much happier person, and I don't cry. I don't cry like I used to. So there's a whole bunch more to like teach you out of this and like talk to you about, but I wanted to get the whole story out so you could actually hear it if you wanted to. So that's the story. There's a lot more that comes out of it. I learned a lot more. That was just a taste. So that was a big story.